Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. The night in the fire capital still carried the scent of blood. Inside the daimyo manor's study, candlelight flickered faintly. Chiba Arashi was half reclining on a soft couch, his fingertips tapping rhythmically on the armrest. Memories of his previous life flashed through his mind. He was not from this world. 16 years ago, he had transmigrated and become an infant. He was the least favored illegitimate son of the daimyo of the Land of Fire, born of a lowly maid. In this palace, his status was no different from that of an ant. The moment he was born and opened his eyes, a mechanical voice echoed in his mind. Ding. Detecting host situation. Meets binding conditions. Daimyo system, officially activated. Mission. Clear obstacles. Mission description. As a mortal, clear all obstacles to succession and ascend to the position of daimyo of the Land of Fire. Mission restriction. Before the mission is completed, the host will have no extraordinary power. Mission rewards. 6 paths sage body. 9 tomo rinnegan. From that moment on, Arashi began 16 years of patience and scheming. He had no power and could not use chakra. His only weapon was his mind. He walked on thin ice, surviving in the cracks of the imperial court. He secretly befriended disgraced retainers, supported destitute samurai, and used the knowledge of his past life to accumulate his own wealth. He sowed discord while his legitimate elder brothers fought bitterly for the position of crown prince. Meanwhile, he quietly eroded their influence from the shadows. 16 years. A full 16 years. He rose from an illegitimate son who could be executed at any moment to standing at the center of power, step by step. 2 months ago, the former daimyo died of a severe illness. For the throne, his brothers engaged in a bloody struggle. Arashi revealed his fangs at the right time and ultimately had the last laugh, becoming the sole candidate to inherit the title of daimyo. When he held the national stone, the symbol of the daimyo, the system's voice, silent for 16 years, finally spoke again. Ding. Congratulations, host, for completing the ultimate mission. Rewards being distributed. At that moment, a vast divine power surged through his body. His body was instantly reshaped, every cell filled with chakra. His eyes transformed into the purple rinnegan with 9 tomo. 16 years. Arashi opened his eyes, the purple glow flashing before reverting to black pupils. 16 years as a mortal, he murmured, a faint smile forming. The overwhelming contrast made even him feel unreal for a moment. But he quickly adapted. He was still the same Chiba Arashi, used to solving problems with strategy and patience. Now, he simply had an extra trump card. Arashi rubbed his temples and sat upright. On the table before him lay the recently approved budget for city defense repairs. My lord, it's late, you should rest. An old voice came from outside the door. Come in. Arashi didn't look up. The door was pushed open, and an old man entered, carrying a bowl of soup. The old man, Gen, was a loyal retainer who had cared for Arashi since childhood. These are the verification reports for post-war relief funds that arrived this afternoon. Setting the bowl on the corner of the table, General then took out several scrolls and neatly arranged them. Arashi picked up the topmost one. Have the families in the north of the city been dealt with cleanly? His voice was calm. Reporting, my lord, all have been dealt with cleanly, Gen said. Their family property has been confiscated, the principal offenders and their direct relatives charged with treason. The remaining branch families have been exiled to the border of the Land of Demons for 3 generations. Arashi unrolled the scroll. It was filled with names, each marked with a red X. They had all chosen the wrong side. He was never merciful to his enemies. There's one more matter. Gen hesitated. Konoha village sent someone with a congratulatory gift, a personal letter from the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, congratulating you on your ascension. Gen presented a letter sealed with wax. Oh. Arashi finally looked up, a faint smile curving his lips. Konoha moves fast, doesn't it? He took the letter but didn't open it right away. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage of Konoha village. A man portrayed as gentle and benevolent, but in truth, his cunning and schemes were unmatched. As for that old dog, Danzo Shimura, hiding in the shadows beside him, he was even more ruthless and unscrupulous. Those two would be his first obstacles in controlling the land of fire. The sword known as Konoha was too sharp, sharp enough to forget who held the hilt. Gen, don't you think the annual funds we allocate to Konoha village are a bit excessive? Gen bowed slightly. This servant dares not speak on state matters. But, the manor's finances are indeed a bit tight. Arashi smiled. Yes, tight. He stood and walked to the window. From there, he could overlook most of the fire capital's night view. Pass on my order. Tell the Minister of Finance to come to my study tomorrow morning for a discussion. Yes, my lord. Gen answered but didn't immediately leave. My lord, about the young miss of the Kiyotsuki family. Kiyotsuki Yui. A cold, proud face appeared in Arashi's mind. The Kiyotsuki family had been one of the main noble factions supporting his eldest brother and was annihilated in the struggle. Yui was the only daughter of the Kiyotsuki head, renowned for her beauty and talent. Still on a hunger strike? Yes, my lord. She hasn't eaten or drunk for 2 days now, Gen said with concern. She swore that even if she dies, she will never serve her enemy. She has backbone, Arashi said simply. He returned to the desk and opened the letter. Its contents were the usual congratulations and declarations of loyalty. It also mentioned that the Third Ninja World War was nearing its end, that Konoha had suffered heavy losses, and hoped the daimyo manor could allocate a special budget for reconstruction and ninja relief. They're good at calculations, Arashi muttered, tossing the letter into the candle flame and watching it burn to ash. They want both money and reputation. How can there be such good fortune in this world? Gen stayed silent. How are preparations for the coronation ceremony? Arashi asked. They are being expedited. The 1st of next month is an auspicious day. Good. I understand. Arashi waved his hand. Go. Bring Kiyotsuki Yui here. My lord. This, Gen hesitated. Her emotions are unstable right now. What if she offends you? It's fine. Arashi waved dismissively. I want to see how strong a noble lady's resolve can be. A quarter of an hour later, the study door opened again. 2 guards escorted a woman in a plain white kimono inside. She was slender, pale-faced, but her back was perfectly straight. Her long black hair was slightly disheveled. She was Kiyotsuki Yui. You may leave, Arashi said. The guards bowed and exited. Yui glared at the man behind the desk, her eyes filled with hatred. It was this man who had destroyed her family and taken everything from her. I heard you want to die. Arashi finished the last sip of ginseng soup and set the bowl down. Yui stayed silent, her defiance clear. If you die, you'll have nothing left. Arashi stood and walked toward her, looking down from above. Your father and brothers all regretted it before they died. His voice was calm. You're lying. My father would never beg for mercy from someone as despicable as you. Despicable. Arashi smiled and pinched her chin. The winner takes all. My brothers were far more despicable when they tried to kill me. When your family handed them the knife, did you ever think this day would come? Yui struggled, but couldn't break free. Kill me, she spat. Kill you. Arashi shook his head and returned to his seat. That would be such a waste. You're beautiful. Be my maid. I think you're quite suitable. Dream on. Yui screamed. I'd rather die than suffer your humiliation. Die. Arashi laughed loudly, then tossed a dagger toward her. Here, kill yourself. Yui froze, trembling with anger and shock, staring at the dagger but not moving. Seeing her hesitation, Arashi sneered. Didn't you want to die? What's wrong? Afraid? Someone. At his call, the guards entered again. Take young Miss Kiyotsuki Yui to wash up, and make sure she's properly cleaned. Yes, my lord. The expressionless guards stepped forward. Despair washed over Yui as they seized her arms and dragged her away. Her struggles were weak and futile. Silence returned to the study. Arashi's brush hovered above the scroll, yet to touch the paper. His consciousness sank inward, and a blue interface only he could see appeared. Daimyo System. Current mission. Land of Fire Financial Reform, Phase 1. Mission Objective. Reduce Konoha Village's annual budget by 20%, and achieve preliminary control over the Land of Fire's economic lifeline. Mission Reward. Unlock Talent Scan Function. Arashi was long accustomed to such treatment, and it pleased him. At the entrance of the sleeping quarters, two newly assigned maids stood respectfully with their hands clasped and their bodies slightly bowed. Arashi pushed open the door and entered. Inside, candlelight flickered, and the faint scent of incense filled the air. A figure lay curled up on the bed, the bedding outlining the graceful curves of a woman's body. Arashi's footsteps lightened, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Perhaps hearing the sound, the figure on the bed visibly tensed. Arashi walked straight to the bedside, sat down, and with a playful look, reached his hand into the bedding. What he touched was not soft skin but the rough texture of fabric. His smile vanished instantly, and he pulled the quilt back sharply. "You're still wearing clothes." Yui suddenly opened her eyes. Her gaze was filled with fear, but her expression remained stubborn. Arashi ignored her emotions. His face darkened as he let out a cold snort. "It seems you still haven't learned how to be a maid." Someone. The door opened immediately, and the maids outside hurried in, falling to their knees and pressing their foreheads to the cold floor. "I told you to teach her the rules." Arashi pointed at Yui, his voice carrying suppressed anger. "Didn't you teach her?" This. The maid trembled violently, repeatedly bowing her head. Arashi frowned, his patience thinning. "Take her away and teach her again. Make her understand what a maid's duty is." He paused, his tone dropping lower. "If she still hasn't learned by this time tomorrow, you will be held responsible." The maid quickly nodded. "Why yes, my lord. I will definitely teach her properly." Arashi turned slightly, and the maid immediately scrambled up, rushed to the bed, and grabbed Yui's arm. No matter how she struggled, she was forcibly dragged out of the sleeping quarters. The hall door closed behind them, cutting off her cries. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the study windows, casting soft shadows across the floor. Arashi finished reviewing several reports and was slowly sipping his tea. "Lord Tanaka requests an audience, Lord Daimyo," Jen announced from outside. "Let him in." Soon, a slightly overweight middle-aged man entered briskly. His name was Tanaka Shigeru, an old minister of the Land of Fire. Tanaka bowed respectfully. "May Lord Daimyo be in good health." "Sit," Arashi said, setting down his cup. "Thank you, Lord." Tanaka sat carefully, occupying only half the chair, his posture humble. After a few formalities, Arashi said, "Last night, the third Hokage of Konoha sent a letter." Tanaka asked, "What did it say?" Arashi toyed with the cup lid, his tone even. "The letter was very touching. First, it congratulated me on my succession, then it reminisced about the long-standing friendship between Konoha and the Daimyo Manor, and finally, it made a small request." Tanaka's eyelids twitched. A small request mentioned by the daimyo himself could not be small. What does the third Hokage mean? His meaning is that in this great war, Konoha made great contributions but also suffered heavy losses. The village lies in ruins, awaiting reconstruction, Arashi said indifferently. So, he hopes the daimyo manor can provide an additional budget for post-war rebuilding. Tanaka's face turned bitter, and he immediately protested, "My lord, that is absolutely impossible. The national treasury is emptier than my hair. Suppressing the rebellion already drained our reserves. Reconstruction efforts and compensations all require funds. We have nothing left to give." "Oh," Arashi raised an eyebrow. "Is it that serious?" "Even more so, my lord. Bring Konoha's account books for me to see." Tanaka had come prepared. He hurriedly presented a thick ledger with both hands. Arashi took it, flipping through swiftly, scanning several lines at a time. The figures inside were staggering. Procurement of weapons, ninja mission subsidies, casualty compensation, infrastructure construction, research and development. These expenditures consumed 1/3 of the Land of Fire's annual budget. During the Third Great Ninja War, that share had even risen to half. Arashi's expression darkened. He shut the ledger with a dull thud. So much. Cold sweat formed on Tanaka's forehead as he explained, Konoha is, after all, our military shield. Without their efforts at the front lines all these years, Arashi smiled faintly. Tanaka, I ask you, Konoha is important, but are the other citizens of the Land of Fire not important? During wartime, I can understand high military expenses. But now, the Third Reikage is dead, Iwagakure is weakened, Sunagakure has submitted, and Kurigakure is caught in internal strife. The war is nearly over. Instead of reducing spending, he wants even more funds. What kind of logic is that? Tanaka hesitated, speechless. Then, does my lord intend to reject it outright? Arashi waved his hand. Rejecting it would appear too harsh. The third is respected and has rendered great service to the Land of Fire. We can't be so heartless. Tanaka looked confused. Arashi's smile deepened. Not only can we not reject it, we must actively help him. Help him and help Konoha village learn what frugality means. He raised 2 fingers. Starting next quarter, Konoha's annual budget will be reduced by 2/10. 2/10. Tanaka nearly leapt from his chair. My lord, that's impossible. That's an enormous cut. Konoha will never agree. The third Hokage. He will agree, Arashi interrupted calmly. He stood and patted Tanaka's shoulder. The treasury is struggling after the war. For the sake of the Land of Fire's recovery, everyone must share the burden. Konoha, as part of the Land of Fire, should set an example. I'm sure the third will understand. Tanaka's face turned pale as sweat ran down his cheeks. He understood perfectly. This was about establishing authority, using Konoha as an example to warn others. But Konoha, with such heavy losses in this war, I'm already being generous by not holding them accountable. Arashi sat back down. The third is a wise man. He knows what choice to make. It's settled. Draft a new financial budget for me. Yes, my lord. Tanaka bowed deeply. Go, and make the official document sound sincere. Yes. Tanaka withdrew, his steps unsteady. Silence returned to the study. Arashi's expression was calm. The first move had been made. Even without a system mission, Konoha would have been his first target. As a daimyo, how could he allow the blade to be held in someone else's hand? Power and authority must never be entrusted to others. Just then, Gen's voice sounded from outside the door. My lord, enter. Gen pushed open the door and bowed. My lord, a Konoha ninja requests an audience. He says he's on orders from the third Hokage to deliver a detailed report on the Great War. A Konoha ninja? Arashi looked slightly surprised. Who is it? He calls himself Yuhi Shinku. To be continued. Chapter 3. Konoha's Performance Report. Yuhi Shinku. Hearing that name, Arashi immediately thought of another person. Kurenai. Konoha's future genjutsu master, Asuma's wife, a woman possessing both maturity and a strong will. Interesting. Sending a letter, then sending a messenger, tisk tisk. Let him in. Arashi's voice was calm. Moments later, footsteps sounded, and a man entered the study. He wore Konoha's standard vest, his figure tall and upright, though the faint scent of blood on him could not be hidden. He must have just returned from the battlefield. Konoha Jonin, Yuhi Shinku, greets Daimyo-sama. The man bowed with perfect etiquette, but his posture still carried the pride of an elite ninja. It was the confidence forged in mountains of corpses and seas of blood. No need for formalities. Arashi's gaze swept over him. His strength was decent, his chakra reserves full, and his mental energy refined. A qualified ninja. Unfortunately, before him, he was nothing more than an ant. Where is the report? Bring it. Yes, Lord. Shinku stepped forward, presenting a thick scroll with both hands. The report details Konoha's casualties, material expenditures, and strategic assessments from this war. Please review it, Daimyo-sama. Gen stepped forward, received the scroll respectfully, and placed it on Arashi's desk. Arashi didn't open it immediately. He lightly tapped the scroll with his finger. You've worked hard. To survive such a brutal battlefield, you are a hero of Konoha. And a meritorious subject of the Land of Fire. His tone was warm and courteous, like a gentle spring breeze. Shinku quickly bowed. To serve the Land of Fire is the duty of a Konoha ninja. Well said. Arashi nodded approvingly, then unrolled the report. The Battle of Kikyo Pass. The Kanabi Bridge Battle. One after another, battle names appeared, followed by cold, emotionless casualty numbers. Each number represented a vibrant life, a shattered family. Senju Hashirama, your naivety killed them all. It's tragic, Arashi murmured as he rolled the scroll shut. Konoha's ninjas have paid a heavy price for the Land of Fire. Seeing the opportunity, Shinku spoke earnestly. My lord is wise. It is precisely for this reason that the third Hokage sincerely asks the daimyo manor for assistance. He paused, lowering his voice. The village has sacrificed countless ninjas. Their families need compensation, the wounded need treatment, and the homes destroyed by war must be rebuilt. All of this requires funds. I implore Daimyo-sama to understand Konoha's difficulties. Here it comes. Arashi sneered inwardly. Jonin Shinku, I understand your purpose, and I have already read the third's letter. He shifted the topic smoothly, pushing the scroll forward. But it seems you have misunderstood something. This report is not a record of Konoha's merits or a petition for rewards. It is a performance report, detailing how Konoha has fulfilled its duties to the Land of Fire. Shinku's pupils shrank sharply. Arashi's tone wasn't loud, but his words struck like a hammer. Do you think the funds the daimyo manor allocates to Konoha are insufficient? Or have you used them for your own comfort during peacetime, and now come asking for more? You must understand that money pays for your sacrifices in war, it pays for every casualty on this report. You have shed blood, and the Land of Fire has not treated you unjustly. Arashi stood, walking around the desk until he stood before him, looking down from above. My brothers emptied the treasury in their struggle for power, that was my family's affair. I quelled the rebellion and drained the finances, that was state business. And now, you come to me, bringing what should be a duty report, demanding more compensation. Jonin Shinku, tell me, why? Or do you think the lives of ninja are worth more than the tens of thousands of civilians displaced and starving in the flames of war? Each word pierced deeper than the last. Shinku opened his mouth, but no words came out. All explanations suddenly felt meaningless. Their achievements were reduced to mere duty. Konoha's sacrifices, dismissed as transactions. This man simply didn't place Konoha on an equal footing. Were ninja merely tools? A chill ran down Shinku's spine. I understand. After a long silence, he bowed deeply. I will report my lord's words to Hokage-sama. Arashi nodded, expression unreadable. He didn't care what Konoha's response would be. Whether they were angry or silent. If they dared to provoke him, he would crush them without hesitation. Once Shinku stepped back, Arashi's expression softened. Compassion replaced the cold authority from moments before. The dead are gone, what we can do now is protect the living. In this great war, Konoha lost too many pillars. I truly grieve for them. His tone grew gentle, especially Genjutsu ninja. Their strength can often decide victory through subtlety. Losing even one is a great loss for the Land of Fire. Does Konoha's next generation have any promising talents to inherit your will? The sudden shift in tone caught Shinku off guard. After a brief pause, he replied instinctively, to answer my lord, among the younger generation, there are indeed several talented children. Oh, Arashi's eyes lit with mild interest. For those talented in Genjutsu, I have high expectations. Shinku's face brightened slightly. He said with pride, my daughter, Kurenai, has shown some talent in Genjutsu. She's already listed by the village as a key training target. Kurenai. Arashi repeated the name softly, smiling. A fine name. How old is she now? Has she been on the battlefield? Shinku replied, my daughter is 16 this year and has already experienced battle. Arashi's tone softened with apparent sympathy. A 16-year-old girl on the battlefield, how tragic. Tell the third that heroes bleed on the front lines, and the land of fire will never let their families shed tears behind them. For outstanding ninjas like John and Shinku, the cultivation of their descendants should indeed be prioritized. Shinku looked up suddenly, stunned. What did he just hear? Humiliation, suppression, and then, reward. I will allocate a special fund for genius cultivation to Konoha starting next quarter. I hope your daughter and other gifted youths will receive the support they deserve. Thank you, my lord. Shinku's tone was filled with gratitude. Good. You've endured a long and tiring journey. Arashi waved dismissively. I've received the report. You may return. He added casually, since you're already here, don't leave so soon. Walk around the capital, see the post-war reconstruction, and understand the people's lives. Yes. Shinku bowed deeply, then turned and left. Only after walking out of the daimyo manor and feeling the cool evening breeze did he realize his back was drenched in cold sweat. Meeting this young daimyo was more exhausting than facing enemies on the battlefield. That invisible pressure had nearly suffocated him. So, this is what true power feels like. Inside the study, Arashi toyed with the brush in his hand, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Here's in Sarutobi, do you think sending an elite Jonin would test me? You'll soon learn that I won't just cut your budget. I'll take your talents too. Pushing those thoughts aside, Arashi returned to his documents. Establishing a new order required absolute patience. Time passed quietly. The moon rose high in the night sky. Gen entered silently to replace the candles, his movements light and precise. My lord, it's late. Arashi didn't look up. Only after finishing the last document did he exhale deeply. Continuous work had finally taken its toll, leaving a trace of fatigue. Suddenly, that pale, stubborn face from yesterday appeared in his mind. He wondered if, after a day of teaching, that hard bone had finally been broken. Arashi stood, a hint of anticipation in his eyes, and walked slowly toward the sleeping quarters. To be continued. Chapter 4. Do you regret going against me? Arashi returned to his bedchamber, where candles still burned brightly and incense smoke coiled gently upward. Upon entering, he saw Yui lying alone on the bed. He removed his outer robe and tossed it casually to a maid standing in the corner, then walked slowly toward the bed. His footsteps were quiet, yet Yui's body tensed up, curling into a smaller shape. My lord. Her voice trembled, faintly pleading. Arashi stood by the bed, looking down at her silhouette. He responded indifferently, his tone devoid of warmth. This time, you're not wearing anything, are you? The words struck like a slap, making Yui's body tremble. And no, she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. Arashi said nothing further. He reached into the bedding, and his fingertips brushed against soft, smooth skin. Only then did he pull his hand back in satisfaction, nodding slightly. Sit up. His tone was calm but firm. Yui froze, her mind going blank. Sit up. Wouldn't that mean? Don't make me repeat myself. Arashi's tone deepened slightly. Fear ultimately won over shame. Yui moved stiffly, biting her lip until it bled, two streams of tears slipping silently down her face. Arashi watched her quietly, his gaze steady. Yui took a deep breath, pushing herself up with trembling arms. The silk quilt slid from her shoulders, pooling around her waist, revealing her graceful figure. Her head hung low, eyes tightly shut, long black hair falling forward to hide her face. This was her last bit of resistance. Time ticked by slowly. The expected nightmare never came. That man merely watched, doing nothing. At last, Yui couldn't help but look up. Their eyes met. His dark gaze made her heart pound violently. Startled, she lowered her head again, her breath unsteady. Arashi leaned back against the headboard, resting one leg lazily on her thigh. Massage my leg. He spoke as if giving an order. Yui froze again. After a long hesitation, she extended a trembling hand and placed it gently on his leg, beginning to massage. Perhaps unused to such labor, her movements were light and without strength. Use more force, Arashi said indifferently, eyes closed. At his words, Yui bit her lip harder and pressed down slightly. Tears fell one by one, darkening the brocade quilt. She had once been the pride of the fire capital, admired by countless noble heirs, the beloved daughter of her clan. When had she ever endured such humiliation? Arashi felt no sympathy at all. Instead, he found this scene beautiful. A proud rose, stripped of its thorns, to be handled and reshaped at his will. That sense of crushing something radiant and remolding it completely to his own design brought a strange satisfaction to his heart. In the candlelight, he opened his eyes and studied the woman before him. He had to admit, Yui was beautiful. Her skin was fair as snow, her features delicate, and even in humiliation, her cool temperament hadn't completely faded. The vulnerability only added to her fragile charm. Her reputation in the fire capital had not been exaggerated. Arashi reached out, tucking her loose hair behind her ear, revealing her tear-stained face. Do you regret it? His tone was soft, but the question struck her heart like a hammer. He was referring to the Kiyotsuki family's fateful decision. When his brothers had fought for the position of daimyo, the Kiyotsuki family had remained neutral at first. It was Yui herself who had persuaded her father to side with Arashi's elder brother, for love. At the time, she had believed she was choosing the future daimyo. She had thought this illegitimate younger brother was nothing but an ant trying to stop a carriage. Now, it all seemed absurd. The touch of his hand made Yui shudder again. She did not answer. Her head remained bowed, her hands continuing to massage his leg mechanically. The tears flowing down her face already told him everything. Regret. Yes. Bitter regret. Seeing her silence, Arashi didn't press further. He withdrew his hand. Go. Close the window. His tone was calm. In the corner, a maid who had been trying to remain invisible quickly straightened up and prepared to move. I wasn't talking to you, Arashi said coldly. The maid froze and hurriedly backed away into the shadows. Yui's movements stopped again. She remained motionless, as if she hadn't heard. Arashi didn't rush her. He simply reclined, waiting quietly. The air felt heavy and still. After a long silence, Yui finally pulled her hands away. She slowly stood up. The quilt slipped away, and the delicate flower bloomed unguarded under the candlelight. Without saying a word, she walked barefoot toward the window. 1 step, 2 steps. Each one was unbearably heavy. Outside, the moonlight was faint, and the stars glittered like frost. It was beautiful. She stared blankly at the view, as if seeing everything she had once lost. Then, she reached out her hands. Click. A soft sound echoed. That window, through which the starlight shone, was gently closed by her own hands. Morning came. Sunlight streamed through the window into the bedchamber. Yui opened her eyes but didn't move. Beside her, the bed was empty except for a faint trace of warmth. Perhaps she had tossed and turned in her sleep, as the bedding was messy. She stared blankly at the ornate canopy above her, her eyes hollow. The door creaked open, and a maid entered carrying toiletries. Seeing that Yui was awake, the maid quickly knelt. Young miss, you're awake. If it had been yesterday, Yui might have reprimanded her or ordered her out. But today, she simply rose quietly, allowing the maid to help her wash and comb her hair. She said nothing, her face expressionless, like a puppet. Overnight, the once proud daughter of the Kiyotsuki family seemed to have lost her soul. Meanwhile, in the study, Arashi had finished reviewing a pile of urgent documents. He stood before a large map, his gaze fixed on the area marked Konoha, deep in thought. A 20% budget cut was only the beginning. What he truly wanted was to bring Konoha completely under his control. How would Hiruzen react? When he first rose to power, didn't he rely heavily on my foolish father? Arashi smiled faintly, the curve of his lips vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Someone. My lord. Jen appeared silently at the doorway. Issue an order. From today onward, Kiyotsuki Yui will serve as my personal maid. She will be responsible for tea service in my study. A flicker of surprise passed through Jen's eyes, but he quickly lowered his head. Yes, my lord. Arashi turned back toward the window, watching the sun rise over the fire capital. The best way to tame a wild horse was not to lock it away. It was to place a bridle on it, keep it close, and remind it constantly who its master was. Yui was no exception, and neither was Konoha. To be continued. Chapter 5. The Fire Capital's Banquet of Blades. Inside the study, the faint scent of sandalwood filled the air. Arashi leaned back in his chair, eyes closed in rest. Yui knelt beside him, awkwardly brewing tea. She was dressed in a simple maid's uniform, her former grace and arrogance gone. Only a pale, expressionless face and hollow eyes remained. Boiling water poured into the teapot. Steam rose, carrying a light aroma of tea. She discarded the first brew, refilled the pot, and carefully poured the tea into a cup, offering it to him with both hands. Throughout the entire process, she didn't say a single word, her silence was almost frightening. Arashi didn't open his eyes. General, your subordinate is here. Jen, waiting by the door, immediately responded. Go summon Lord Tanaka of the Ministry of Finance, Lord Ito of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Kawachi no Kami, Yamashiro no Kami, all of them. Arashi listed several names in a calm tone. Yui's hand trembled slightly as she held the cup. Those were all high-ranking nobles and old ministers of the fire capital. During the succession struggle, most had remained neutral, while some had secretly supported her would-be husband, Arashi's late elder brother. Was this a reckoning? Yes, my lord. Jen bowed and left. Only then did Arashi open his eyes, taking the cup and blowing gently on the tea. The tea is good, he said casually, glancing at her. Yui's shoulders tensed even further, her head lowering until it nearly touched the floor. Half an hour later, in the Daimyo Manor's council hall, more than a dozen officials and nobles stood in neat rows. The air was heavy, their expressions grave. No one dared to sit. Whispers filled the air. Unease showed plainly on every face. Why did Lord Daimyo summon us so suddenly? I don't know, everyone here seems too quiet. Don't speak carelessly. Tanaka Shigeru, Minister of Finance, stood at the front, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He knew better than anyone how ruthless the new daimyo's methods were. Suddenly, a steady rhythm of footsteps echoed from outside. All conversation stopped. Arashi, flanked by guards, entered the council hall. He wore a black robe embroidered with gold patterns that shimmered faintly under the light, adding an air of composed authority to his refined features. He didn't take the main seat. Instead, he stopped in the middle of the hall, his calm gaze sweeping across the room. Everyone he looked at quickly lowered their head. My lords, you are the pillars of my land of fire, Arashi began, his voice even yet commanding. I invited you here today because I need your help with a few matters. He clapped his hands. Jen entered, leading two guards carrying a large wooden box. Thud. The heavy box landed with a dull sound that made everyone's heart tighten. Open it. The lid was lifted. Inside was a pile of scrolls and ledgers. At first, the ministers only looked on curiously. But when a few scrolls slipped, revealing familiar handwriting and family crests, the color drained from their faces. Tanaka Shigeru froze. He stared at a blue-covered ledger with a tea stain on the corner. It was the false account he had forged himself. Next to him, Minister Ito spotted a personal letter, his own handwriting, pledging full support to the late daimyo's eldest son. Kawachi no Kami felt his knees buckle. He saw a mining report detailing falsified production numbers, signed by him and one of the executed traitors. Each man saw his own doom staring back at him. Silence fell. The hall was filled only with the sound of ragged breathing and chattering teeth. Cold sweat drenched their fine robes. The wooden box before them no longer looked like a box, it was a coffin prepared for them. In that suffocating silence, Arashi's calm voice cut through the air. My lords, what is the matter? He scanned the crowd, feigning concern. You all look unwell. Is someone ill? His feigned gentleness was sharper than any blade. He knew everything and he wanted them to know that he knew. Tanaka Shigeru finally collapsed to his knees, trembling. Your subject is guilty. His cry broke the silence like shattering glass. Lord Daimyo, please spare us. We were momentarily blinded, my lord. Have mercy. One after another, they knelt, their voices shaking, begging for forgiveness. The great hall dissolved into chaos. Arashi stood silently, watching their pathetic display, a faint smirk on his lips. Silence. Jen barked. The hall fell quiet again. Heads remained bowed low. All of you, rise, Arashi said flatly. These items were taken from the estates of my late brothers during the rebellion. He picked up a random scroll from the box and weighed it in his hand. I haven't looked inside yet. I suppose there's nothing important. He turned, tossing the scroll casually back into the box. Jen, bring a brazier. Yes. A large copper brazier was quickly brought in. Under the stunned gazes of the ministers, Arashi motioned to the guards. Pour it all in. Burn it. The guards obeyed, tilting the box over the flames. Whoosh. Scrolls and ledgers tumbled into the fire, the blaze roaring to life. The flames reflected off Arashi's composed, elegant face. I am not one to dwell on the past, he said clearly, his voice steady above the crackling fire. Let the past burn clean, like this flame. I have not read what was inside, and no one will ever mention it again. But remember, such things must never happen again. He turned, sweeping his gaze across the room. I only care about the future. From this day onward, your loyalty belongs to me alone. Those who create value for me will receive everything they desire. Do you all understand? As his words echoed, Tanaka Shigeru's expression shifted from terror to elation. He fell to his knees again, tears streaming down his face. Your subject, Tanaka Shigeru, swears eternal loyalty to Lord Daimyo. I will serve without hesitation. Your subjects swear eternal loyalty to Lord Daimyo. The others followed, their cries merging into a chorus that shook the hall. At that moment, all hesitation, all pretense of independence, vanished. Only reverence and fear remained. This young daimyo had burned away their sins and bound their souls in one stroke. From this day forward, their lives belonged to him. Arashi watched them with satisfaction, mentally sorting through a list of trusted names. He could have executed these men to make an example of them, but what then? Without these seasoned officials, who would manage the nation? Letting hot-headed samurai handle finance and infrastructure. The land of fire would collapse in months. No, they had to live and serve him faithfully. Once his new generation of loyalists was ready, these old dogs would have no value left. For now, killing them was the lesser path. Controlling their hearts was the true way. To be continued. Chapter 6. Carrots, sticks, and a very big pie. The flames in the brazier gradually weakened, leaving only scarlet embers that occasionally burst with a spark. In the council hall, the waves of allegiance had not yet settled, and the smell of charred wood still lingered. Arashi's sneer faded, replaced by a gentle smile. Looking at the ministers kneeling on the ground, faces showing the relief of surviving a disaster, Arashi said, Rise. You are the pillars of the land of fire. There is no need for such a grand bow. His voice was not loud, but it instantly calmed the restless crowd. Thank you, Lord Daimyo. Tanaka Shigeru and the others stood shakily. Their backs stayed slightly bent, and none dared meet Arashi's eyes. The sight of that burning brazier had seared itself into their minds. Arashi did not return to the main seat. He paced to the center of the hall and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Then he sighed. The sigh was soft, but it made the ministers' hearts jump to their throats. My lords, Arashi said with a trace of sorrow, my few useless elder brothers nearly emptied the treasury for the sake of a false reputation. Stabilizing internal strife, appeasing the territories, and rebuilding the capital will cost a fortune. He paused, letting his gaze sweep over them. Just yesterday, Lord Tanaka even told me the treasury is cleaner than his hair. Tanaka shuddered, nearly dropping to his knees again. Your subject was only making a comparison. Your subject deserves punishment. No, you are right, Arashi said, waving for him to relax, though worry deepened on his face. Now the war is about to end, tens of thousands of soldiers await pensions, displaced civilians wait to be resettled, the ruins await reconstruction, and money is needed everywhere. These past few days, I have slept poorly because of money. His words were filled with helplessness. The ministers exchanged glances. He is asking for money. Then again, this daimyo, for all his thunderous methods, did inherit a wreck. And every person present had contributed, more or less, to that wreck. As Minister of Finance, Tanaka knew the treasury best. He clenched his jaw and stepped forward first. He knelt again. Lord Daimyo worries for the country. How can your subject stand by? Your subject, Tanaka Shigeru, is willing to share your lordship's burden and donate 70% of his family property to replenish the national treasury. The hall was stunned. 70%. That was the Tanaka clan's wealth accumulated over a century. Had he gone mad? In an instant, the ministers understood. This was not madness. This was loyalty. He was using money to buy his life, to buy his clan's future. That fire had just burned away the evidence of their crimes. Now it was time to pay for absolution. Your subject, Masashi Ito, is willing to donate 70% of his family property to share your lordship's burden. Your subject, Kawachi Mori, is willing to donate all earnings from the 3 iron mines in his territory for the next 10 years. Your subject. For a moment, the hall resounded with pledges of donation. It was like an auction of loyalty. Whoever spoke slow, whoever gave less, was disrespectful to the daimyo. Yui stood in the corner, watching this absurd yet real scene, her heart unsettled. One fire, a few words, and those miserly old foxes were emptying their coffers. Such methods were terrifying. Arashi listened quietly. The worry on his face eased, though his brows remained slightly furrowed. In his heart, he sneered. A bunch of fools. Do I need your money like this? If I wished, a single thought could wipe out your wealth and your lives together. A thought flashed through his mind. Arashi lifted his hand, pressing down lightly. Good. I appreciate your intentions. He sighed, his expression turning complicated. State affairs are difficult. I should not ask you to spend so much. But for now, this is the only path. It is just that, money alone is not enough. Their hearts tightened again. There is more. Arashi paced a few steps, then said slowly, after this war, I found many positions in the court overstaffed and inefficient. Some hold multiple posts, occupying seats yet accomplishing nothing. If this continues, the country will cease to be a country. He stopped and looked at several old ministers who held real power. I plan to streamline the court, eliminate useless departments, merge redundant posts, and promote capable young people. You are pillars of the nation, experienced and knowledgeable. You must understand this. Why not help me compile a list? See which subordinates are old and should retire, and which posts do not actually need so many people. Those words shook them more than the demand for donations. Losing money was painful enough. But this was like tearing away the foundations they had built with their own hands. Those posts and people were the foundations and wings they had built over decades. Cut their own. Whoever moved first would lose their base. It was worse than death. Silence fell again. Heads lowered. No one dared speak first. The air congealed. A faint smile touched Arashi's lips, then vanished. The time was right. The carrot would now appear. He laughed suddenly, breaking the silence. Haha, look at how frightened you are. Would I really make you cut off your own arms? He walked to Tanaka, personally helped him up, and patted his shoulder, his manner warm. Your efforts for the country today, I have seen and taken to heart. You are my meritorious subjects. I am too busy rewarding merits, how would I punish faults? He looked around and raised his voice. The list can wait. But there is something we must do now. I have decided to use the treasury and your donations to launch the Land of Fire's 3-year revitalization plan. First, we will rebuild war-torn towns, repair the roads, and dredge the rivers. Within this, there are countless opportunities, countless benefits. Arashi's voice carried weight. These projects will not be given to outsiders. I will prioritize them for my most trusted subjects, for those of you standing here who are willing to face hardship with the Land of Fire. What you have lost, I will let you earn back 100-fold, 1,000-fold. I will make the Land of Fire prosperous and strong, and I will make my meritorious subjects the wealthiest, most honored people on this land. Silence. Then the minister's breathing quickened, and their eyes turned red. They looked at Arashi with fervor. This daimyo had first crushed their pride with ruthless force, then erased their leverage in one stroke, seized their wealth, and tightened his grip on their power. Finally, he painted a reward so vast it defied imagination. A pull, a strike, then a sweet date. Your subjects are willing to follow Lord Daimyo through fire and storm, without hesitation. For the daimyo, through any peril, without hesitation. They knelt with true conviction. The roar of allegiance rose like a tidal wave, nearly lifting the roof. Arashi watched with satisfaction. Fear and greed are the two most useful reins in this world. Now, he held them both in his hands. To be continued. Chapter 7. Konoha sends back a nope. In the afternoon, Konoha was peaceful and serene. The smoke of war had not yet dissipated, but reconstruction had already begun. Everyone in Konoha knew the village had lost much of its vitality in this war. Even so, the will to live had already helped the village recover a measure of life. Yuhi Shinku stepped through the village gate, his footsteps unwavering. The news of budget cuts weighed on his chest like a stone. The image of that young daimyo, those calm eyes, lingered in his mind. He hurried straight to the Hokage building. Hokage office. Smoke filled the air. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, sat behind his desk, puffing on his pipe, his brow deeply furrowed. In front of him was a mountain of post-war reports and compensation lists. Udatane Kaharu and Homura Mitokado, the two elder advisors, sat on either side, their expressions grim. In the shadows of the corner, Shimura Danzo leaned on his cane, silent. The atmosphere was heavy. Still no news. Homura asked first, impatient. Judging by the time, Yuhi Shinku should be back soon, Hiruzen said, setting down the scroll and rubbing his temples. He was not worried that the request for an additional budget would be rejected. No previous daimyo had refused Konoha on such matters. Konoha was the shield of the Land of Fire, and the cost of maintaining the shield was necessary. This time, sending Yuhi Shinku was to submit a war report and also to gauge the new daimyo's attitude. A 16-year-old who seized power through bloodshed would not have ordinary temperament or methods. But he was young, after all. As long as Konoha presented itself as a meritorious servant and offered some appeasement, there should not be a big problem. Knock, knock. A knock sounded at the door. Come in. The door opened, and a dust-covered Shinku walked in. His face was full of fatigue, his expression was complicated. Hokage-sama, honorable advisors. You're back. You've worked hard, Hiruzen said with a gentle smile. How did it go? What did the daimyo say? Everyone's gaze fell on Shinku. He stood straight but did not answer immediately. His Adam's apple bobbed, as if organizing his words. He looked up, met their gazes, and spoke with difficulty. Hokage-sama, the daimyo manner rejected the request for an additional budget. The office fell silent. Although they had anticipated this outcome, hearing it firsthand still made their faces sink. Homura asked in disbelief, rejected. Why? So many died in the village. Does the daimyo not see it? Kaharu said coldly, what does the daimyo want? To use Konoha to establish authority as soon as he takes office. Hiruzen did not speak. He took a slow puff on his pipe, his face hazy behind the smoke. Things were likely not that simple. In the shadows, Danzo's single eye flashed coldly. Yuhi Shinku, Tell us the meeting in detail, word for word, Hiruzen said, voice calm. Yes. Shinku steadied himself and recounted the meeting exactly. From Arashi defining the war report as a performance review, to the soul-piercing question, are the lives of ninja more noble than those of civilians? And finally, the seemingly benevolent special fund for genius cultivation. When he finished, the office grew even heavier. Homura and Kaharu were shocked. Those arguments were airtight. He stood on the side of justice, turning Konoha's merits into its duties. He twisted Konoha's request for compensation into competing with the people for profit. What a cunning tactic. Could these words really come from a 16-year-old? Not only that, Shinku's voice tightened. Before I left, I heard the daimyo manor is undergoing financial reform. The daimyo ordered that, starting next quarter, the village's annual budget will be cut. What? This time, even Hiruzen could not remain seated. He looked up sharply, his eyes flaring. Not only deny the additional request, but cut the existing budget as well. How much was cut? From the shadows, Danzo's voice was cold. 2/2. Boom. The number made everyone's heads buzz. 2/10. This was no small sum. Ninja compensation, treatment for the injured, development of new ninja tools, maintenance of the village's defense system, which did not require funding. With that cut, the already strained village would face serious operational difficulties. Homura cried, he's crazy. He wants to destroy Konoha. He is shaking the foundation of the land of fire. Danzo stepped out of the shadows, his cane striking the floor with urgent weight. Cut 2/10. On what grounds? How dare he? What does he think ninja are? Tools to be measured by money. We bled and sacrificed for the land of fire, and this is the humiliation we receive. Hiruzen, we cannot tolerate this. This brat is declaring war on us. We must teach him a lesson. Kaharu echoed sharply, that's right. We must make him retract the order. Once the budget is cut, turmoil in the village is inevitable, and our deterrence against other ninja villages will drop sharply. Do not forget, Kumo is still watching us like a tiger eyeing its prey. Emotions ran high in the office. Everyone, calm down, Hiruzen snapped. After the initial shock, he forced himself to settle. He sat again, picked up his pipe, and did not light it for a long time. His mind was filled with the young daimyo described by Yuhi Shinku. Calm, dignified, emotions unreadable, speaking the most piercing words in the gentlest tone. First striking with a stick, then tossing a useless candy to make you grateful. He knew this method well. But it should not appear in a 16-year-old. These methods, this cunning, this depth, clearly the mark of someone steeped in power for decades. He remembered the past. Back then, to secure the position of Hokage, he had also sought the daimyo manor's support. He knew the daimyo's power was not only in nominal rule. Economics was the most lethal weapon. After all, everyone had to eat, ninja included. But he had never thought this new daimyo would refuse so decisively. The other party did not bargain with Konoha. He issued a notice. They had all misjudged him. A chilling memory flashed through Hiruzen's mind. Just last month, he had received a plea for help from this daimyo. At that time, the struggle for the daimyo's position was at its peak. He had refused. Cold sweat formed. Hiruzen, what are you hesitating for? Danzo stepped closer, voice sinister. Send the Anbu to warn him. Let him learn what co-governance means. Foolish. Hiruzen slammed the desk, voice sharp. Danzo stopped. Hiruzen stared, eyes like blades. Warn him. How? Send an assassin. Then what? Make the nobles and civilians of the land of fire see Konoha as rebels. Let the other four nations laugh at us. Give them an excuse to declare war. Without the daimyo manor's support, can the village endure a war? The barrage left Danzo speechless. Yes, the other side was the legitimate daimyo. His reason for cutting the budget was national hardship and the need to overcome it together. On what grounds could Konoha object? Were Konoha ninja not people of the land of fire? Justice and legitimacy were in his hands. Konoha had strength, but its limbs were bound. Then, what do we do? Just accept it? Homura asked, unwilling. Hiruzen fell silent. He walked to the window, looking at the village below and the stone faces that symbolized the will of the Hokage. For a long time, he exhaled a heavy breath. No, we cannot just let it go. He turned back, once again composed like a ninja hero. I will personally resolve this. Danzo's cane struck the ground. How? Hiruzen picked up the invitation. Do not publicize this for now. I will speak with the daimyo at the coronation ceremony. To be continued. Chapter 8. Long live the daimyo. What can a month change? In the ninja world, it could mean the end of a brutal war or the fall of several powerful figures. But in the fire capital, a single month was enough to transform the entire city. Brother, these spices of yours, they came from the land of wind, didn't they? What's the price? In the largest market in the fire capital's South City, a merchant from the land of grass named Watanabe shouted to a local shop owner. Watanabe had been running this trade route for 5 years. He remembered that just a month ago, this place looked completely different. At that time, the civil unrest had only just settled. The streets were full of patrolling samurai, and the air carried a nauseating smell of blood. The roads were filled with potholes, sewage flowed freely, business was terrible, and every face was etched with numbness and panic. But now, Watanabe looked around, feeling as if he were dreaming. The road beneath his feet was newly paved with bluestone, smooth and clean. The shops on both sides were freshly renovated, banners fluttering in the breeze. The most shocking change was the people. Crowds filled the streets. Dockworkers, construction craftsmen, rickshaw pullers, vendors, everyone's faces carried something Watanabe had never seen before. Vitality. Hey, Watanabe, you're finally here. The shop owner poked his head out from behind the counter, his face glowing with health. The usual, price is negotiable. Come in and have a cup of tea first. You came at the perfect time. Watanabe was warmly pulled into the shop, and a clerk quickly served hot tea. He couldn't help but ask, Boss, did you all strike it rich or something? Strike it rich. The boss slapped his thigh, his voice rising several octaves. It's gone crazy. The entire fire capital has gone mad. Now, as long as you're willing to work, you'll never starve. Carrying sacks at the docks for a day pays double what it used to. North City is repairing the sewers, East City is building new housing districts, and West City is expanding the workshop area. Everywhere needs people. We can't even find enough workers. Wages are high, everyone has money, so of course they're spending more. Look at my shop, this month's turnover is more than the past 3 months combined. Watanabe was stunned. This is all thanks to the new daimyo. Exactly. The boss's face was full of admiration. You wouldn't believe it. As soon as our new daimyo-sama took office, he forced those arrogant nobles to use their family fortunes to rebuild the city and roads. I even heard daimyo-sama launched something called a 3-year revitalization plan, to turn the fire capital into a golden nest. The teacup in Watanabe's hand trembled. He looked at the bustling crowd outside, listening to the distant clang of construction, and only one thought filled his mind. The land of fire is about to change. At the same time, inside the Ministry of Finance's office, the lights burned brightly. Minister of Finance Tanaka Shigeru was hunched over piles of ledgers, his eyes bloodshot but his spirit unusually lively. His fingers traced the rows of numbers as he muttered to himself. South City Road Repair Project. Allocated 1 billion ryo, projected tax increase of 30%, actual, 45%. River Dredging Project. Undertaken by the Ito family, employing 7,000 displaced people, not only solved resettlement but also revitalized water transport. Next month, just from shipping tax, an additional 50 million ryo. And the 3 iron mines offered by Kawachi no Kami, using new technology, have quadrupled production. The farming tools and implements crafted are sold out before they even leave the furnace. Tanaka's heartbeat quickened with each calculation. A month ago, When he knelt before Daimyo-sama, forced to surrender 70% of his family's assets, his heart bled. But who would have thought? Daimyo-sama immediately assigned several of the most profitable reconstruction projects to him and his family's merchant guild. At this rate, in less than a year, the Tanaka family would be restored to glory. Daimyo-sama once said he would let them earn it back 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Now, it seemed he hadn't lied. He used an iron fist to consolidate power, and unimaginable profits to bind everyone to the land of fire's chariot. Tanaka put down his pen and let out a long breath. Looking at the incoming funds, his eyes burned with fanaticism and awe. To die for Daimyo-sama is our honor, he muttered as if swearing an oath. Inside the daimyo manor's study, Arashi stood before a large sand table. He casually picked up a wooden token representing the workshop district and placed it on an empty space west of the city. A soft voice spoke from behind him. My lord, the tea has cooled. This concubine will prepare a fresh cup for you. Kiyotsuki Yui approached, carrying a tea tray. She wore a simple maid uniform. Her face had regained some color, and her movements were no longer stiff, though she still instinctively lowered her gaze before Arashi. Over the past month, the once noble young lady who had never lifted a finger had learned to brew tea, grind ink, and tidy the study. Each day, she stayed by Arashi's side, watching as commands issued from this very room turned into tangible changes across the fire capital. She saw those ministers, once equal to her father, now report with genuine reverence. She watched familiar place names on the sand table be replanned into projects generating immense wealth. She didn't understand complex economics, but she could feel a great power gathering at this man's fingertips, reshaping the entire country. This power instilled a fear far deeper than slaughter or destruction. No need, Arashi said without turning around. Sit. Yui froze, unsure what to do. Sit, he repeated. Only then did she hesitantly kneel on the cushion, her posture perfectly straight. Arashi turned and slowly walked behind her, placing his hand on her shoulder, gently stroking it. How do you feel after this past month? Yui's body trembled. I am merely a maid. I do not understand state affairs. Is that so? Arashi smiled. I thought you might believe I was exploiting the nobles, using their money to gain fame for myself. Yui lowered her head further, saying nothing. She had indeed thought that at first. You only saw them paying, but you didn't see how much they gained. Arashi's hand moved lower. I took their family assets to break their old order. I gave them projects to help them find a place in the new order I created. Fear makes them submit, and profit makes them loyal. His voice was calm. Yui's face flushed as she suppressed the turmoil in her body. But deep down, a chill rose. She slowly looked up, daring to meet his eyes for the first time. Before him, her pride and hatred seemed utterly insignificant. My lord, why tell me all this? She asked, her voice trembling. Arashi's hand continued to move. Because you are beautiful. A beautiful face, if paired with an empty mind, would be such a waste. I know you hate me deeply, but I still want you to learn to think, not just accept things passively. That way, it will be more interesting. Yui's cheeks burned crimson, whether from shame, anger, or something else, she couldn't tell. Knock knock. A knock came at the door. Outside, Jen's voice sounded. My lord, speak. All preparations for the enthronement ceremony are complete. The ceremonial day is 3 days from now. Good. Also, Konoha village has sent a reply. Oh, Arashi raised an eyebrow, withdrew his hand, and returned to his seat. Come in. Yui exhaled softly, her face showing both shame and suppressed indignation, though deep hatred still flickered in her eyes. Jen entered and respectfully presented the letter. Arashi unfolded it. It was sent jointly by the Konoha elders. The letter stated that they fully understood the daimyo manor's financial difficulties and were willing to face the challenges together with the country. Furthermore, they would send a delegation to attend the enthronement ceremony 3 days later. Arashi murmured, a delegation? Hiruzen Sarutobi. To be continued. Chapter 9. visitors from Konoha, envoys from 4 countries. Only 2 days remained until the coronation ceremony. Fire Capital, a city that had just undergone a bloody purge, was not in chaos. Instead, it was orderly. The streets were spotless, and the nobles and ronin who used to roam freely were nowhere to be seen. In their place were teams of sharp-eyed guards clad in armor. They patrolled every street corner in groups of 3. A carriage adorned with the Uchiha clan fan crest slowly entered the city. Inside the carriage, Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hiyashi, and the clan chiefs of the Ino Shika-cho families rode together, conversing merrily. However, due to Akamichi Cho's presence, it felt a bit crowded. Just then, Hiyashi's expression changed slightly, and veins bulged around his eyes. Hiyashi, what's wrong? Nara Shikaku, who was beside him, noticed the change and quickly asked. The others also cast inquiring glances. Hiyashi did not answer immediately. His Byakugan penetrated the carriage, scanning the surrounding buildings, his brows tightly furrowed. Something's not right. After a long while, he slowly spoke. The defenses of this capital are more than just the guards we see. Oh, Shikaku's interest was piqued. There are ninja hidden at every critical intersection, Hiyashi said in a solemn tone. Fugaku snorted. Are they the 12 guardian ninja? Doesn't seem like it. Hiyashi shook his head. Their chakra fluctuations are unfamiliar, and there are about 30-odd of them, but of all the people I've detected, the weakest are at least Shunin level. Some of their chakra are even on par with ours. The carriage instantly fell silent. The relaxed expressions on everyone's faces vanished. A ninja force of over 30 individuals, at least Shunin level, and with experts of elite Jonin level. This power was enough to instigate a coup in a small country. Moreover, this force did not belong to Konoha. It seemed to be the doing of that daimyo. This is troublesome. Shikaku rubbed his forehead, muttering to himself. This young daimyo is very assertive. In another carriage, 2 figures sat within it. It was the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and Minato Namikaze behind him. Minato, do you feel it? Hiruzen scanned the surrounding streets, his tone deep. Minato nodded, looking at the orderly streets. Yes, this daimyo is very capable. Hiruzen sighed, his gaze directed toward the distant, majestic daimyo manor. Indeed. I just wonder if this daimyo still remembers the blood Konoha shed for the land of fire. After speaking, he looked serious and turned to Minato. During this great war, we suffered heavy losses, and the village, both internally and externally, needs an explanation. As the 3rd Hokage, it's time for me to take responsibility for all of this. His words were full of self-reproach, but Minato understood the deeper meaning beneath them. Take responsibility. How to take responsibility? By resigning from the position of Hokage to take responsibility. This was both a gesture of accepting responsibility and a tactical retreat. Daimyo Manor, in a side hall. The delegations from the daimyo manors of the Land of Lightning, Land of Wind, Land of Earth, and Land of Water had already been arranged to wait here. The atmosphere was somewhat subtle. The envoy from the Land of Lightning was a burly noble, dressed lavishly, his face full of arrogance, with 2 Kumogakure ninja guards behind him, exuding an intimidating aura. The envoy from the Land of Earth was short, appearing to be a civil official, stroking his beard silently, also with 2 Iwagakure ninja guards behind him. The envoy from the Land of Wind was a middle-aged official with a weathered face, and behind him stood a masked female ninja with dangerous eyes. Most striking was the delegation from the Land of Water. The envoy was a pale-faced, gloomy young noble, and the guard standing behind him was Biwajuzo, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. HMPH, making so many of us wait here, this is hardly proper hospitality. The envoy from the Land of Lightning was the first to break the silence, his voice rough and tone displeased. Although the others did not speak, their faces showed dissatisfaction. Just then, the door of the side hall was pushed open, instantly drawing everyone's attention. The person who walked in was a young woman. The woman carried a tray with exquisite pastries on it. She lowered her head, moving with light steps, placing the pastries one by one on everyone's tables. The gloomy noble whistled with interest, the sound not loud but particularly jarring. Oh, the land of fire's maid, she's quite pretty. The woman seemed not to have heard. After placing the last pastry, she bowed and retreated to the side, standing with her hands clasped. Just then, footsteps sounded outside the door again. This time, it was the daimyo manor's old butler, General. My lords, thank you for waiting, Gen bowed. Daimyo has specially ordered this old man to arrange lodging for you, my lords. The envoy from the land of lightning snorted. The land of fire's hospitality leaves much to be desired. Gen's smile remained unchanged. Daimyo said that since you, my lords, have traveled a long way and endured hardships, you should rest well. Tomorrow evening, Daimyo Manor will host a banquet to welcome you, my lords. With words spoken to this extent, the envoy from the land of lightning found it difficult to make a scene. Daimyo Manor. Arashi stood by the window, looking down at his capital. In his consciousness, on the interface of the daimyo system, points of light representing powerful individuals lit up one by one. Uchiha, Hyuga, the Ino Shika-cho families. Inazuka, Aburame, Hiruzen Sarutobi, Minato Namikaze. And the ninja guards in the delegations of the four great nations. They've almost all arrived. Are all the arrangements made? Yes, my lord, all have been properly arranged. Gen's voice came from behind him. Very good. Arashi turned around, his gaze falling on an invitation. This was sent by Hiruzen, arranging to pay a visit tomorrow. His finger tapped on Hiruzen's name. He was somewhat looking forward to tomorrow's arrival. To be continued. Chapter 10. Retreating to advance. As the enthronement ceremony approached, the fire capital was completely reshaped within a single month. The shadow of war seemed to have dissipated, and prosperity was visible to the eye. The expanded streets were wide and clean, with shops lining both sides. Caravans from various countries, guided by guards, orderly entered the designated trade zones. The air was filled with the aroma of food, intertwined with the clang of blacksmiths, forming a picture of human life and activity. Children chased and played, their faces full of laughter. All these thriving scenes originated from the young daimyo who was about to be enthroned, Arashi. He used an iron fist to reshape the order of the fire capital. Only a few rats still trembled, hiding in the shadows. Order brings safety. Safety fosters prosperity. But beneath this prosperity, an undercurrent was quietly surging toward the center of power in the fire capital, the daimyo manor. Study room. Arashi stood before a huge map, his gaze calmly surveying the entire territory of the land of fire. Just then, a voice from outside the door sounded. My lord, the third Hokage has arrived. Finally, he came. Arashi regained his composure and said, let them in. Yes. The door was pushed open, and two figures entered, one after the other. Leading the way was Hiruzen Sarutobi, dressed in the Hokage's ceremonial robe. He deliberately restrained his powerful aura, his face covered with wrinkles, his eyes cloudy, looking decrepit and older than in the manga, completely lacking the demeanor of the ninja god he once was. Minato Namikaze followed closely, with dazzling short golden hair, bright eyes, and a perpetually humble and gentle smile on his face. The two entered the room and bowed deeply to Arashi. Konoha's Hiruzen Sarutobi greets Daimyo-sama. Konoha's Minato Namikaze greets Daimyo-sama. Arashi turned around, a gentle smile on his face. Please rise, both of you, no need for such formalities. He gestured with his hand. The third has toiled for the country, and Jonin Minato is even more a pillar of the nation. Please, have a seat. Thank you, my lord. The two sat down as instructed, their postures respectful. Hiruzen's gaze subtly swept across the study room, finally resting on Arashi, a chill in his heart. He was even more composed than described in the intelligence. Not only did he show no youthful impetuousness, he was remarkably calm. The bloody struggles he had endured recently seemed to have left no trace on him. Arashi said lightly. Someone, bring tea. The side door of the study was gently pushed open, and a maid entered, carrying a tea tray. She kept her head down, her steps light, serving tea to Hiruzen and Minato with meticulous movements, so elegant she hardly seemed like a maid. Minato politely thanked her, his gaze involuntarily drawn to the woman's profile, struck by her beauty. However, the moment Hiruzen next to him clearly saw that face, his pupils sharply constricted. His hand, holding the teacup, tightened abruptly, spilling tea, but he did not notice. Kiyotsuki Yui. He would never mistake that face. The most dazzling pearl of the fire capital, the sole daughter of the Kiyotsuki family, which was destroyed for backing the wrong side. How could she be here, and wearing a maid's uniform? How ruthless. Although Minato did not recognize Kiyotsuki Yui, he keenly caught the third's lapse in composure. His heart tightened, and when he looked at the maid again, his eyes held a hint of scrutiny. After setting down the teacups, Yui did not retreat but walked behind Arashi, standing with her hands at her sides, like a statue. This silent gesture was like a heavy hammer, striking Hiruzen's heart. The speech he had prepared all the way here now felt stuck in his throat. Arashi's face showed concern. Third, you look a bit unwell. Is it the fatigue from the journey? Hiruzen snapped back to attention, quickly composed himself, and forced a smile. Indeed, I am a bit tired. I'm old and useless now, please forgive me, Daimyo-sama. Arashi immediately blamed himself. Oh, it's my fault. How could I let an elder like you, who has toiled for the country all his life, make such a journey personally? No hardship, Hiruzen humbly replied, but inwardly, alarm bells were ringing. Is he implying I'm old and should retire? I cannot be led by him any longer. Setting down his teacup, Hiruzen decided to stop beating around the bush and get straight to the point. Daimyo-sama. He suddenly stood up, his expression becoming incredibly solemn. Although we ultimately won this great war, the village also paid a heavy price. Countless excellent ninja died on the battlefield, countless families were shattered, and the village is in ruins, waiting to be rebuilt. His voice was hoarse, his words filled with sorrow, as if from the bottom of his heart. As Hokage, I bear an inescapable responsibility for all of this. It was I who failed to protect them better. It was I who failed to lead the village to a brighter future. At this point, he bent down, his head almost touching his chest, his posture extremely humble. Therefore, I have come today to resign from my position as Hokage to Daimyo-sama. I humbly request, my lord, to allow me to step down as Hokage. I am willing to bear full responsibility for the losses caused by this war. As his voice fell, the study room plunged into dead silence. Minato also hastily stood up, his head bowed, his eyes complex. This was the script that Hiruzen had discussed with him before coming. Arashi instantly saw through Hiruzen's intention, a hint of mockery flashing in his eyes. To retreat in order to advance. A good plan. He would take responsibility upon himself, presenting a noble and upright image. If Arashi did not agree, he could then propose restoring the budget to appease the village. If Arashi agreed, he could legitimately nominate Minato to take over, and if he could also bring back news of no budget cuts, his position would be instantly solidified. Thinking more deeply, Minato was already from the Hokage faction. Whether Hiruzen retired or not, Konoha's power would still circulate within the Hokage faction. He had calculated well. Arashi pondered for a moment, then his gaze passed over Hiruzen and fell upon Minato. Jonin Minato. Called by name, Minato immediately responded, here. What do you think of the third's decision? Minato instantly felt immense pressure. This question was difficult to answer. To say he supported it would be disloyal. To say he opposed it would go against the purpose of their visit. Minato pondered for a moment and replied, Hokage-sama is wholeheartedly devoted to public service. I do not dare to comment presumptuously on his decision. However, I believe that the village, having just gone through a major war, needs stability most right now. Regardless of who leads Konoha in the future, the stability of the village must be the top priority. This answer both expressed respect for Hiruzen and highlighted the potential risks of changing the Hokage, skillfully kicking the ball back. Well said, Arashi praised, then looked back at Hiruzen. He slowly rose and walked in front of Hiruzen, helping him up, his tone sincere. Third, what are you doing? You have toiled for the land of fire, for Konoha, your entire life. Your achievements are outstanding, you are a pillar of the nation. How can the losses of war be borne by you alone? That's not fair. Hiruzen's heart swelled with joy, believing his strategy had worked. It seemed this young daimyo still understood how to weigh the pros and cons and would not easily allow a leaf to fall into turmoil. However, Arashi's smile remained unchanged, but his tone suddenly shifted. You are also right, Konoha indeed needs change, needs to be responsible for the future. Your willingness to step forward and bear this responsibility, this magnanimity, I admire. He patted Hiruzen's shoulder intimately, saying each word distinctly. Your resignation, I accept. To be continued. Chapter 11. It is time to give way. Your resignation, I accept. The moment Arashi's voice fell, the look of shock on Hiruzen's face lasted only an instant. Immediately after, a surge of ecstasy filled his heart, and even his taut nerves relaxed. It's done, he shouted in his heart. This daimyo is, after all, too young. Hiruzen thought to himself. He might have seen through my superficial tactic of retreating to advance, but he did not realize that this retreat was to ensure the most stable handover of power for the Hokage lineage. This meant the Hokage position would transition smoothly into Minato's hands. Konoha's foundation not only remained unshaken, it would become even more stable due to Minato's achievements and prestige. However, he did not know why, but a complex and unspeakable emotion welled up in his heart. 27 years. From the prime of his youth to old age, he had dedicated his entire life to Konoha. From now on, that Hokage hat, symbolizing the village's highest will, would no longer belong to him. Arashi looked at Hiruzen's complex expression and sneered in his heart. Old fox, you have already swallowed the bait. Now, be happy a little longer. Minato's heart was stirred, and he looked at Hiruzen with deep respect. The third has paved the path for the village and for me. Arashi stood up, his face filled with sincerity and emotion. I just thought about it carefully, and my heart is also filled with emotion. His tone carried a sense of reminiscence. I remember, you took over the heavy burden of Hokage in Konoha year 20, from the hands of second Hokage Senju Tobirama, right? Hiruzen subconsciously nodded. Yes. And this year is Konoha year 47. Arashi let out a long sigh, gesturing with his hand. 27 years. For a full 27 years, you dedicated the most precious years of your life to the village, to the land of fire. Third, you have worked hard. These words, full of respect, filled Hiruzen with a sense of being acknowledged, and the slight disdain that arose from achieving his goal faded a little. Even Minato felt deep admiration. Arashi continued, a meritorious official like you is now resigning due to war losses. If I were to simply approve it like this, would it not make me, the daimyo, seem cold and heartless? However, your body truly needs rest, and it is time for the younger generation to take charge. Looking at Hiruzen, Arashi asked for his advice. Third, in your opinion, who is most suitable to succeed the Hokage position in Konoha today? It's here. Hiruzen's heart settled. The other party not only agreed to his abdication, he also voluntarily handed him the right to recommend the next successor. What immense trust. What immense respect. It seems Yuhi Shinku's description was completely wrong. His last trace of doubt vanished, and with a solemn expression, he unhesitatingly pointed behind him. Daimyo-sama, I recommend Minato Namikaze. He is the most suitable to take over the Hokage position. Elaborate. Minato, in this great war, swept through the battlefield with his flying thunder god technique, killing countless enemies. He is known as the Yellow Flash, and his reputation shakes the entire ninja world. Iwagakure even issued an order that anyone who sees the yellow flash may abandon their mission and flee. He is loyal to the daimyo in the village, cares for his comrades, and his strength and prestige are sufficient to take on the position of fourth Hokage. Yellow flash. Arashi's gaze fell on Minato, and he praised his illustrious reputation. I have heard of it. I am very relieved to have such a hero serve as Hokage. Good. It shall be as you say. At the inauguration ceremony the day after tomorrow, I will officially appoint Minato Namikaze as the fourth Hokage. The dust had settled. Minato was thrilled and bowed deeply. Thank you for your trust, Daimyo-sama. Hiruzen's heart, which had been anxious all the way, finally completely relaxed, and his old face immediately broke into a wide smile. Third, you have found another talented individual for the Land of Fire. You have toiled your entire life for the country, and now that you have retired with honor, as the daimyo, I must not treat a meritorious official shabbily. Arashi immediately decided, from today onwards, your salary and benefits will be doubled. I will send people to immediately renovate your mansion in the capital, and all servants, maids, and expenses will be borne by my daimyo manor. From now on, you only need to enjoy your golden years and this honor. These words greatly comforted Hiruzen. This was not only respect, but also a transcendent status. Even without real power, what did it matter? Hiruzen was moved to tears of gratitude. Thank you, Daimyo-sama. Since the daimyo valued him so much, he thought, the other purpose of his visit today would surely be easily resolved. Thinking of this, Hiruzen's smile became even more sincere, and he said, the daimyo's kindness is boundless, and I am eternally grateful. However, there is one more matter concerning Konoha's foundation, which I must speak of. Oh, Arashi looked at him with interest, thinking to himself, it is finally here. Third, just speak directly. It is about the reduced budget. Hiruzen sighed, putting on a worried expression for the country and its people. Konoha is the shield of the Land of Fire. The cultivation of the ninja, the execution of missions, and the defense of the village all require money. A 20% reduction would truly make the village's operations difficult to maintain. He thought that these heartfelt words, coupled with the good atmosphere just now, would surely make the daimyo relent. However, the smile on Arashi's face had already faded. Third, he was not angry, his tone was calm, yet incredibly serious. My reduction of Konoha's budget is not aimed at you, it is a national strategy. Come, follow me. He stepped forward and took Hiruzen's arm, pulling him to the table, and pointing to a document, said, do you know what this is? Hiruzen shook his head blankly. Arashi unfolded the document and showed it to him. Hiruzen turned his head and clearly saw the contents inside. It recorded loss reports from all over the country, including population and property, with lines of cold, shocking numbers. Hiruzen was speechless, clearly startled by the numbers on it. The war is over. At this moment, Arashi's voice slowly drifted over. You only see Konoha's war losses, but have you seen the entire Land of Fire? Have you visited the border towns? They were destroyed by war, a scene of desolation. Have you asked in the rural villages? How many families there have lost their children and husbands, leaving only orphans and widows? The civilians of the Land of Fire need to recuperate. The destroyed towns need to be rebuilt. The displaced civilians need to be resettled. Do these things not require money? Arashi suddenly turned around, his gaze piercing like a torch, directly into Hiruzen's heart. Every single ryo must be used effectively. The most important thing now is to appease the people and rebuild their homes, not to let a ninja village that has already won the war continue to maintain its massive wartime expenses. This series of words, along with the shocking war damage report, struck Hiruzen and Minato like heavy hammers. They had never considered this issue from this perspective. In their eyes, the village's interests were above all else. But at this moment, the people's livelihood, as spoken by the daimyo, was the foundation. Third, Arashi's tone softened, but his subsequent words seemed somewhat critical. Konoha is the sharp blade of the Land of Fire, the pride of the nation. But, Konoha cannot only know how to demand from the nation, yet not understand the daimyo's difficulties, nor the suffering of the myriad people. Hiruzen's face instantly turned pale. His lips trembled, wanting to argue, but he found himself unable to utter a single word. This sentence was too heavy. It was equivalent to directly nailing Konoha, and him, Hiruzen Sarutobi, to the pillar of shame for contending with the people for profit. Minato, standing by, was struck as if by lightning. He wanted to refute, but he could not speak. Because every word the other party said stood on the moral high ground, its legitimacy irrefutable. To be continued. Chapter 12. Hiruzen, you don't even have the right to refuse. The atmosphere in the daimyo manor study was heavy. All the arguments and contingency plans he had prepared were useless against this young daimyo. The other party did not even bother with schemes. He simply laid bare a problem Hiruzen had deliberately ignored, right in front of him. Bloody. Konoha are the land of fire, which is the main body. Ninja are civilians, which is the foundation. He suddenly remembered something Danzo often said. For Konoha, Hiruzen opened his mouth, his throat dry, unable to utter a sound. Refute. What could he use to refute? Was he to publicly declare that the lives of civilians were less important than Konoha's future? If those words left his mouth, Hiruzen would be nailed to a pillar of shame. Minato stood behind him, silent, the warmth gone from his face. He looked at the report on the table, then at the third Hokage's ashen face. The belief he had always held was shaken. For the village, must he truly disregard other people? The study was very quiet. Everyone's breathing was clearly audible. Third Hokage, you are a smart man. Arashi stepped forward, steadying the tottering Hiruzen, and pressed him back into his chair. Sit down and speak. Hiruzen stumbled into the chair, all strength drained from his body. Arashi turned, poured a cup of hot tea, and pushed it in front of him. Drink some tea. This gesture, in Hiruzen's eyes, was blatant humiliation. But he had even lost the courage to refuse. Minato's lips moved, but he dared not say a word. I know you feel bad. Arashi's tone was calm. You have dedicated your life to Konoha, wanting it to be better, I understand. But your vision is too narrow. You only see one village. He raised a hand and pointed out the window. Look outside. This land, these tens of millions of people, are the true foundation of the land of fire. Konoha is the sword of the land of fire, its shield. A sword and shield are meant to protect the country, not to be above it. This principle, you, and the future fourth Hokage, must all understand. His last sentence was directed at Minato. Minato's heart jolted, and he immediately bowed. Minato will engrave the daimyo's teachings in his heart. Arashi nodded in satisfaction. He looked back at Hiruzen. So, budget cuts are not a discussion, they are in order. 20% is just the beginning. If Konoha can adapt quickly, learn to be frugal, and use its money wisely, this number will not change again. But, Arashi paused. If Konoha continues to be extravagant as before, or even falls into disarray, then there is a problem with the village's management. At that time, it will not be a 20% cut. It will be 40%, 60%, or even more. Hiruzen suddenly looked up, his breathing rapid. This was a stark warning. The daimyo manor could not only decide how much money to give, but also Konoha's very survival. This old man understands. Hiruzen's voice was hoarse and dry. He conceded defeat. Indeed, how could the leader of a village compare to the ruler of a nation? I am glad you understand. Arashi smiled again, very gently. Third Hokage, though you have resigned as Hokage, Konoha still needs you to stabilize the situation. How about this? Arashi feigned contemplation. The matter of budget cuts, you will personally return to the village to announce it. Minato's mind buzzed. Have the third Hokage announce it. How was that different from making him publicly admit incompetence? Minato was about to open his mouth when Arashi looked over, a half smile on his face, making him swallow his words. You, Hiruzen trembled violently, his lips quivering as he looked at Arashi, unable to complete a single word. What? The third Hokage is unwilling. Arashi's smile faded. You just said you would take full responsibility for the losses of the war. Now I ask you to convey an order, and you are unwilling. Or are you just paying lip service to taking responsibility? Do you want Minato to take the blame for you? To let him, the newly appointed fourth Hokage, offend everyone in the village? Third Hokage, as his predecessor, you cannot be so irresponsible. Hiruzen was speechless. The responsibility, he had taken it upon himself. Now, the daimyo was asking him to take charge. Could he refuse? To refuse would be to break his word, to be irresponsible, to dump a mess on Minato. Did he want to ruin his lifelong reputation? But if he agreed, countless faces appeared in Hiruzen's mind. The ninja who survived the battlefield, the families who lost loved ones, the orphans and widows living on pensions. How could he face them? When he personally announced the reduction of their budgets, cutting off their livelihoods, what expressions would they have when they looked at him? Disappointment, confusion, or resentment. His lifelong prestige would vanish in that instant. Forward was a cliff. Backward was an abyss. Only then did Hiruzen realize that from the moment he stepped into this room, his right to choose had been stripped away. His supposed game of chess. In reality, he was just following the other party's script. This old man obeys. After a long time, Hiruzen's cracked lips moved. His entire being sagged, his body hunched, as if his bones had been removed. Very good. Arashi's face showed satisfaction. He stood up and picked up a prepared document from behind the desk. This is the new fiscal budget proposal, and my official appointment letter for the fourth Hokage. Take them back. Minato stepped forward and received them with both hands. The day after tomorrow is my enthronement ceremony. At that time, I hope to see a united, stable Konoha that understands the nation's difficulties. You may leave. Arashi waved his hand. Yes. Minato bowed, helped Hiruzen, and slowly exited the study. With a thud, the heavy door closed firmly. The two walked out of the daimyo manor, standing before its grand entrance. The street was bustling with traffic, a scene of prosperity. Hiruzen stared blankly at everything, his mouth full of bitterness. Inside the study, Arashi picked up the now cold tea in front of him and took a sip. Yui immediately stepped forward to refill his cup with hot water. Her movements were light, but she could not help glancing at Arashi. Is it good to look at? Arashi's voice suddenly broke the silence. Yui's body trembled, and she quickly lowered her head. Arashi chuckled, pinching her chin, forcing her to look up. Look at me. Yui was forced to meet his gaze, her eyes having nowhere to settle. Arashi enjoyed her bewilderment and slowly began. Remember, this is power. Whether it is a noble young miss famous throughout the land, or a Hokage who shakes the ninja world, in front of me, they have no right to say no. And you are mine. You must learn to obey. With that, he released her. Arashi no longer paid her any attention. His consciousness sank, and a blue interface appeared before his eyes. Mission: Land of Fire Financial Reform, Phase 1. Completion 80%. To be continued. Chapter 13. New System Function. In the Fire Capital, the Konoha Delegation's guesthouse. This was the residence prepared by the daimyo manor for Konoha's high-ranking officials. At this moment, the atmosphere in the main hall was terrifyingly oppressive. All Konoha high-ranking officials who had accompanied the delegation were present. Hiruzen and Minato had just returned from the daimyo manor. Advisors Udatane Kaharu and Homura Mitokado sat with calm expressions, their fingers tapping on the table, revealing their inner anxiety. Clan chiefs Uchiha Fugaku, Hyuga Hiyashi, Nara Shikaku, and others sat upright, each with their own thoughts. In the shadows of the corner, Danzo showed only one eye, remaining silent. Everyone's gaze was focused on the main seat. The man who seemed to have aged 10 years. Hiruzen Sarutobi. His face was ashen, and his hands, placed on the table, trembled incessantly. Cough, Cough. He cleared his throat and scanned the crowd. Everyone he looked at felt a pang in their heart. The third no longer had his usual prestige, only emptiness remained. From today onwards, I am no longer the Hokage. With that single sentence, the hall erupted. What? How can this be so sudden? What happened at the daimyo manor? Koharu and Homura stood up abruptly, their faces filled with disbelief. Hiruzen raised his hand, and the clamor gradually subsided. His voice was hoarse, devoid of any emotion. This is the daimyo's order. My resignation has been approved by the daimyo. He then looked at the silent Minato beside him. At the same time, the daimyo personally appointed Minato Namikaze as Konoha's fourth Hokage. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's heads turned in unison toward Minato. Envy, jealousy, scrutiny. Minato felt the immense pressure of these complex gazes. He stood up, bowed deeply to everyone, and said nothing. This appointment was too heavy. So heavy that he felt no joy in becoming Hokage. HMPH. In the shadows, Danzo let out a cold snort. Hiruzen, you lost the battle and now you want to just walk away. His voice was chilling, leaving a mess for a mere youngster. Hiruzen's body stiffened for a moment, but he did not retort. Because what Danzo said was true. There is one more thing. Hiruzen ignored Danzo's provocation and continued. The daimyo manor has issued a new financial budget plan. He pushed an official document to the center of the table. Starting next quarter, the village's annual budget will be cut by 20%. Dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. If changing the Hokage was a shift in high-level power, then cutting the budget was like cutting the flesh of everyone present. 20%. A Jonin representative finally could not hold back and cried out in surprise. What a joke. The war just ended, the compensation has not been fully paid out. The injured are still lying in the hospital. Why are they cutting our budget? Exactly. We shed blood and sacrificed for the land of fire, and this is how the new daimyo treats us. He is trying to force us to our deaths. The crowd was furious. Their anger was directed at the new daimyo they had never met. It also targeted Hiruzen, who had brought back this news. Silence. Minato slammed the table, a flash of chakra instantly suppressing the entire room. Only then did everyone remember that the yellow flash before them was already the fourth Hokage. The main hall became quiet again, but everyone's faces were filled with unwillingness and anger. This is an order. Hiruzen repeated the sentence. The daimyo sympathizes with the people and believes that the national treasury should prioritize the post-war reconstruction for civilians. Konoha should set an example. Ha 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 ha. Danzo laughed. His laughter was full of sarcasm. Hiruzen, you are truly senile. Ninja are the foundation of the country. Without us, this sword, those civilians are nothing but lambs to be slaughtered. That daimyo is destroying his own great wall. He stood up, his single eye gleaming with a terrifying light. I disagree. This order is an insult to all Konoha ninja. I will never accept it. His words echoed the sentiments of most people present. For a moment, many people cast hopeful glances at Danzo. Perhaps only this strong root leader would dare to say no to the daimyo. Hiruzen watched this scene, neither pleased nor angry. This is the daimyo's order. He repeated it a third time, then stood up, no longer looking at anyone, and walked out with faltering steps. His back view was desolate. Daimyo Manor. Inside the sleeping quarters, sandalwood incense wafted. Arashi reclined on a soft couch, in a languid posture. Before him, Yui knelt on the carpet, using a small silver knife to peel a crystal pear for him. Her movements were slow and meticulous. After the pear was peeled, it was cut into small pieces, skewered with a silver pick, and offered to Arashi's mouth. Arashi opened his mouth and took a bite. It was very sweet. He looked at the lifeless face before him and suddenly felt a bit bored. His hand, passing through her soft long hair, gently stroked her neck. Yui's body stiffened, but quickly relaxed again. Look up, Arashi commanded. Yui obediently raised her head. Smile. Yui tried to force a smile, which looked worse than crying. Arashi frowned and released his hand. Forget it, it is boring. He waved his hand. You may withdraw. Yes. Yui, as if granted a great pardon, bowed and retreated, her steps somewhat hurried. Ding. Main mission. Land of Fire Financial Reform, Phase 1. Completed. Mission evaluation. Perfect. Mission reward. Talent scan function, unlocked. New mission issued. Main mission. Lord of the Land of Fire, Phase 2. Mission objective. During the coronation ceremony, establish the supreme monarchical authority of the Land of Fire, envoys from all directions, and let the world know that in the Land of Fire, the daimyo is supreme. Mission reward. Economic Policy Sandbox. Economic Policy Sandbox. What is that? Never mind, I will figure it out after completing the mission. His attention shifted to the newly unlocked talent scan function. Enable. Enable. Instantly, a three-dimensional map covering the entire fire capital unfolded in his mind. On the map, countless light dots appeared. White represented civilians, red represented ninja. The depth of the light dots' color directly indicated the strength of their power. Among them, several light dots were crimson, almost purple. Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage, awaiting appointment. Loyalty 65, wavering. Threat rank. Low. Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Clan Chief. Loyalty 50, unstable. Threat rank. Low. Hyuga Hiyashi, Hyuga Clan Chief. Loyalty 55, observing. Threat rank. Low. The new function was so useful. The previous system could also display people as light dots. But it did not show loyalty. Now with the new function, it was clear who was loyal and who was a traitor. Arashi's consciousness finally lingered on a familiar name. Danzo Shimura, Root Leader. Loyalty 10, rebellious. Threat rank. Low. Only 10 points of loyalty. Arashi ignored him and continued to move his thoughts, scanning the area where the four nations' delegations were staying. Land of Earth, Land of Wind, Land of Lightning. The delegations, guards were formidable, all with elite Jonin in charge. What interested him most was the location of the Land of Water delegation. There, in addition to the overt envoy and the guard Biwa Juzo, was a crimson, almost purple light dot. Mei Terumi, undercover. Hidden Mist Village Genius Ninja. Loyalty -20, hostile. Threat rank. Low. Mei Terumi. Why would she be here? Arashi's mind immediately brought up information about this woman. The future 5th Mizukage. What is she doing here? To be continued. Chapter 14. New World. The night was as dark as ink. At the Daimyo Manor, in a secluded and quiet courtyard, this place was usually untouched by anyone, with only rockeries, flowing water, and a dead plum tree. Tonight, however, a lone lamp flickered in the courtyard. Biwa Juzo stood under the lamp, his shadow stretched long. He wore the standard Hidden Mist uniform, and the massive kubikiribocho strapped to his back broke the silence of the courtyard. A faint killing intent lingered in the air. He was here because of an unsigned note that had appeared abruptly on his pillow. No one else had noticed it. To be able to come and go unnoticed under his nose, within a heavily guarded embassy. That alone was enough to be a show of power. Juzo's eyes gleamed darkly, veins bulging on the hand gripping his blade. He was not afraid of death. Which of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist hadn't crawled out from a pile of corpses? But he hated being toyed with, whether by that tyrant back in the village or by this mysterious schemer. Creak. The moon gate opened. A man walked in, carrying a pot of tea and 2 cups. The newcomer wore black, his face handsome, and there was no trace of chakra within him. Juzo's muscles tensed instantly. The one who arrived was none other than the new daimyo of the Land of Fire, Chiba Arashi. Juzo had considered countless possibilities. But never that the one meeting him secretly at night would be this new ruler himself. A daimyo coming alone to meet an enemy Jonin. Was this basically walking into a trap? Ignoring the killing intent radiating from Juzo, Arashi walked straight to the stone table and sat down, pouring himself 2 cups of tea. He spoke calmly. Sit. His tone was steady and unhurried. Juzo didn't move, his cold gaze fixed on him. His voice was rough. Daimyo of the Land of Fire, you've got guts. Arashi lifted the cup, blowing on the rising steam, then glanced at him. What right does a man who doesn't even dare draw his sword have to speak of courage? The words made Juzo's face darken. His hand had been gripping his sword all along, but his instincts screamed at him that this man before him was extremely dangerous, more dangerous than any opponent he had ever faced. Juzo dropped the pretense and asked directly, "Why did you call me here? What do you want?" Arashi was just as direct. "I think you're impressive, so I'm giving you a chance to serve me." Juzo let out a sharp laugh, baring his white teeth. "Serve you? Me? Biwa Juzo of Hidden Mist, swear allegiance to you, the daimyo of the Land of Fire. You haven't woken up yet, have you?" Arashi wasn't angered. His tone remained calm. "If not to me, then who do you serve? The Hidden Mist? The fourth Mizukage, Yagura Karataki? Are you truly loyal to them?" Juzo's smile froze. Watching his reaction, Arashi silently recalled this man's future. Biwa Juzo, a tragic yet respectable figure. Disgusted by the blood mist tyranny, he would one day defect and join Akatsuki. His future partner would be that monster, Uchiha Itachi. And his end would come on a mission. When he used the Kubikiribocho to block a tailed beast ball to protect Itachi. The blade pierced his abdomen, and he died from his wounds. A man who died by his own weapon. A man who, despite being from the mist, sacrificed his life to protect a comrade from an enemy village. Arashi's eyes softened slightly. A scoundrel with principles. A rogue ninja who valued loyalty, fundamentally stubborn. Once such a man gave his loyalty, he would be far more reliable than any opportunist. These thoughts flashed by. His gaze on Juzo carried a faint appreciation. "You and I are both tired of this twisted world. Ninja are used as tools in the games of the powerful, dying meaningless deaths on the battlefield. Civilians are displaced by war, unable to even survive. Villages are ruled by ambitious fools and madmen, who build their power with the blood of their comrades. Don't you think this world should have been destroyed and remade long ago?" Juzo frowned deeply, his eyes narrowing, his tone sharp. "What exactly are you getting at?" Arashi leaned back in his chair. "I want to end it all. I want to build a new order, a truly peaceful world without war or prejudice. Where both ninja and civilians can live in peace." Juzo was silent for a long moment. Then he burst out laughing, a harsh, mocking sound. "Peace. What a lofty dream. Then tell me, Daimyo-sama, what do you have to back it up? Just your words." He stepped forward, and a suffocating killing intent swept through the courtyard, scattering the fallen leaves. The candlelight flickered violently, nearly going out. Yet Arashi sat unmoved, unflinching. "Back it up," he repeated softly, almost amused. He didn't answer. Instead, he raised his hand and extended one finger toward the empty stone table. The next instant, Juzo's mind went blank. No hand signs. No chakra fluctuations. Tiny motes of light gathered at Arashi's fingertip, condensing into form. First, antennae. Then, wings. Finally, a complete butterfly. A living butterfly, born from nothing. It fluttered gently, tracing an arc through the air, before landing on the branch of the dead plum tree. This wasn't ninjutsu. Juzo's thoughts froze completely. Ninjutsu was the manipulation of chakra, shape transformation, nature transformation, all applications of existing energy. But this, creation from nothing. He was watching life itself being created out of thin air. What kind of power was this? Juzo's hand on his sword trembled violently. A bead of cold sweat slid down his temple, falling to the stone slab and shattering. His killing intent crumbled away completely. "Now, do you understand what I have to back it up?" Arashi's calm voice echoed again. Juzo stared at him, fear and awe intertwining in his eyes. If such power existed, perhaps it really could change that cursed world. His throat tightened, and he forced out a hoarse voice, I will serve you." As long as you help me kill Yagura Karataki and end the mist's tyranny. His teeth clenched hard as he spoke that name. Arashi smiled and shook his head. Yes, but not yet. What I seek to end isn't a single village, it's the entire world. Juzo's fists clenched, nails digging into flesh. Arashi looked at him and continued, you can stay by my side and watch. The day you believe I've broken my promise, you can leave freely. Your sword, your will, I won't stop you. But if you choose to stay. Arashi stood up and walked toward him. His shadow completely enveloping Juzo. You and your sword will be the ones to usher in my era, a unified world. The 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. That title means nothing to me. What I offer you is the right to personally forge a new world. As his words fell, Juzo stopped resisting. He knelt on one knee, raising the Kubikiribocho with both hands, placing it horizontally before him, and lowered his proud head. I, Biwa Juzo, am willing to die for you, my lord. To be continued. Chapter 15. Biwa Juzo, a pessimist. The courtyard was silent. The butterfly that had appeared out of thin air rested on a dead branch, its wings occasionally fluttering. Juzo knelt on one knee, his executioner's blade held horizontally in front of him, his posture humble. Arashi stepped forward and helped him up. Stand. His voice was soft, yet left no room for refusal. Yes, Lord. Juzo straightened his back, though he kept his head lowered. The sight of something being created from nothing had completely shattered his pride as a ninja. Once he stood upright, Arashi handed him a cup of tea. Besides you, there's another little mouse hidden among the Land of Water's envoy group. Who is it? Juzo froze for a moment before realizing who Arashi was referring to. Lord, are you speaking of Mei Terumi? He said the name in a dry voice. From the moment he knelt, everything about the hidden mist village was no longer a secret. Mei Terumi. Arashi tapped his fingers lightly on the teacup, a faint smile on his lips. It was indeed her, the future 5th Mizukage. He mused silently. To the people of this world, Mei Terumi was currently just a somewhat renowned genius. I've heard of her, Arashi said, his tone carrying a trace of curiosity. A genius rarely seen in the hidden mist in 100 years, possessing 2 Kekkei Genkei. That's quite rare in the ninja world. He skillfully hid the fact that he already knew. But those words stirred up a storm in Juzo's heart. 2 Kekkei Genkei. That secret was known to only a few within the hidden mist, kept tightly under wraps to protect Mei from the bloody mist's purges. How did he know? Had Konoha's intelligence already infiltrated the mist's highest ranks? A chill ran through him. Juzo was increasingly thankful for his decision tonight. Yes, Lord's insight is sharp. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Juzo continued, she possesses 2 Kekkei Genkei, lava release and boil release. Seeing that he hid nothing, Arashi nodded in satisfaction. Such a person, instead of staying quietly in the hidden mist, sneaks into the fire capital. What does she intend to do? Arashi was genuinely curious. Although he knew the general course of events, he didn't know the details. Mei came to raise supplies for the rebel army. Rebel army? Yes. Juzo nodded. A group led jointly by her and the former Mizukage's guard, Elder Genji. They could no longer bear the bloody mist's tyranny and intend to overthrow the 4th Mizukage and rebuild the hidden mist. Arashi tapped the table thoughtfully. An elder and a genius girl, doesn't sound very strong. Juzo replied honestly, indeed. Most of the rebel army are bloodline limit families who were ostracized or hunted down over the years, along with some civilian ninja who couldn't endure the tyranny. They lack equipment, supplies, and money. Mei disguised herself as a guard and risked her life to infiltrate the fire capital. She hoped to use her own savings to buy military rations and ninja tools from the black market and smuggle them back. Arashi nodded. To have that courage, she's quite a character. Then he asked, do you think she might be willing to serve me? Juzo was stunned. He subconsciously looked up, met Arashi's gaze, and instantly understood. This man not only wanted his blade but also Mei herself. He hesitated for a moment, then shook his head firmly. Impossible. Arashi asked calmly. Oh. Why are you so sure? She's different from me. Juzo's voice was heavy. I'm already rotten. I've long despaired of this world. I only want to find a place to die, or die for a purpose. But May, she's an idealist. She truly loves the hidden mist. She believes she can change that hell and save those trapped in the bloody mist. She'll fight against Yagura Karataki, but she'll never betray the hidden mist. Asking her to pledge allegiance to the land of fire is asking her to destroy her beliefs with her own hands. She would rather die. Juzo's tone was firm. Before that, she would choose death. Interesting. Arashi smiled. The more difficult the challenge, the more intriguing it was to conquer. Tell me about the current situation in the hidden mist. He shifted the topic. Is Yagura Karataki really that despised? At that name, Juzo clenched his fist, eyes filled with hatred. His voice dropped low, like it was forced from his throat. Lord, you can't imagine it. The hidden mist now isn't a ninja village anymore, it's a living hell. The name Bloody Mist was forged with the lives of Mist Ninja. Lord, do you know what the graduation exam at our ninja academy is? Arashi, of course, knew, but remained silent. Hearing it from someone who lived through it carried more weight than any report. Juzo continued, the academy's graduation exam forces students to kill each other. Only those who kill their comrades are qualified to graduate. Countless talented children didn't die on the battlefield, they died at the hands of their own friends. He also ordered the purge of all bloodline limit families, calling them remnants that threaten the village's stability. The Kagaya clan was driven outside the village, the Hazuka clan either died or fled, anyone with special abilities is hunted as a monster. The whole village is filled with suspicion and fear. Neighbors inform on each other, subordinates betray their superiors, no one lives like a human anymore. What's laughable is that his reason for all this is to purify and stabilize the village. Juzo's body trembled with rage. Arashi listened quietly, his expression unchanged. He already knew Yagura Karataki was just a puppet. The true mastermind was Uchiha Obito. If that's the case, why didn't you join the rebel army? Arashi asked. With your strength, you'd be invaluable to them. The anger faded from Juzo's face, replaced by sorrow. He gave a bitter smile. It's useless. What good would killing one Yagura Karataki do? The elders who backed him and the clans that crave power would just choose another Yagura. The name would change, but the system would stay the same. As long as the Mist's man-eating rules remain, no matter who becomes Mizukage, nothing will change. Elder Genji wants to reform it, and Mei Terumi wants to save it, but they're too naive. They think they can patch the cracks, make small repairs to something already rotten to the core. But he gripped the hilt of his blade, despair filling his eyes. What I want is to dig out that rotten root, burn it, and everything above it. Arashi finally smiled in satisfaction. Yes, a man driven to despair should have such resolve. Then why do you trust me? Arashi looked straight into his eyes. Why believe I won't become the next Yagura Karataki? Just because of that technique I showed you. You refused before. Juzo fell silent. He looked up at the butterfly resting on the dead branch. He remembered what he saw after entering the fire capital. Wide, smooth streets. Civilians smiling freely. Workers laboring with bright eyes and hope. It was something he had never seen in the land of water. Something called hope. I don't trust anyone, Juzo said slowly, his voice hoarse. And I don't trust you either. Your power, it's terrifying, but I've seen too many madmen with great power. But, he paused. On the way here, I saw your capital. I saw the faces of those civilians. They have food to eat, work to do, and no fear of losing everything overnight. You're building a new world. One I don't understand, but one where people can live like human beings. His gaze met Arashi's, filled with awe. Destroying everything is easy. What's difficult is building something new on the ruins. Lord, you have the power to destroy, yet you choose to create order. I'm willing to take that gamble. Arashi stood up, making a welcoming gesture. Then congratulations. You've chosen well. Welcome aboard. From today on, you'll remain with the envoy group. Stay hidden and don't expose yourself. I'll send someone to contact you. His code name is Shadow. Your task is to tell him everything you know about the hidden mist, word for word. Yes, Lord. Arashi waved his hand. Go. Juzo bowed, said no more, hoisted his kubikiribocho, and leapt away into the night. Only Arashi remained in the courtyard.